Hey, welcome back to Game Hydro. We got another video for you about Realms of Pixel. And today we're going to go over a tier list of who are the best Mythic characters in the game. So we're just going to start right off with it with Yumi. She is a mana, area of effect type, and control type. So her stats, or her skills rather, you got Supernova Explosion, which deals 100% damage to all enemies, 25% chance for overdrive, and then that damage increases as you level her up. Overdrive immobilizes an enemy for one turn as well as takes away 10% of critical resistance. And then damage down, 10% for 2 stacks up to 5. Now, all of these mythics and all of the legendaries below them, they can be upgraded all the way up to level 350 and 13 stars. To continue, though, Cosmic Devastation causes normal attacks to now deal 40% magic damage to all enemies with a 30% chance to inflict slowdown. And slowdown decreases speed by 5% for 2 turns up to 5 stacks. So slowdown can be stacked multiple times. Generally what that'll do is that'll cause an enemy to attack before your heroes, as long as its speed decreases enough. Very good stats here. Obviously, considering she's a mythic. But the skills aren't really blowing my skirt up so much. I do like the area of effect attack for the primary one, though. And then you've got your attack, magic, hit point, damage bonus buff. And then Transcendence revives in place with 20% max hit point, and Super Evolution after you take a lethal blow. Super Evolution is 15% attack and speed up. I'm going to give her a B+, because the Super Evolution's kind of nice, but the magic damage skill is a little weak sauce. But I do like the AoE to all enemies type of skill. So that's a B+ for her. Next, we got the Ember Maiden Skogul. Her attack, comparing the two, she's a little more of a tank type as opposed to the more well-balanced / damage type that Yumi was. Obviously, she's a fire type. And so you can see all the maximum stats just by tabbing to 5-star, 6-star, 13-star. We're just going to go 5-star right now, though, for simplicity. Oh, speed is also important. Yumi does have decent speed, and Skogul's pretty close. Skill number 1, Annihilating Strike, deals 164% attack physical damage to front and middle row with 30% chance to inflict penetration for 2 turns. Penetration decreases defense for 2 turns and can stack. And the Wings of War effect, which you can grant to other allies at higher levels, increases damage reduction and critical resistance for 2 turns. Second stat here, Piercing Impaler, or excuse me, second skill. Normal attacks now deal 75% physical damage to a single target, with a 50% chance to attack again with the same damage up to 3 attacks in total. Each combo grants a 5% higher crit chance for 2 turns. Alright, that's not that bad. And if you do end up landing 3 attacks in a row, that's 225% damage. I can't argue with that. You got your regular buff right here. Skogul's presence grants all allies 6% attack and 6% damage bonus. For each additional 1 Advent hero deployed, the attack bonus is increased by 2%. Bonus cannot be removed. So you can't be debuffed. That's kind of nice. That's a pretty good tank, because not only can she tank, but she can armor break for your AoE, or for your DPS and AoE type of attackers. I'm going to give her an A-. She's pretty good. So, A- tier. Tier list, remember this. Next up, we got Oswald the Vanquisher. Sounds pretty intimidating. That is definitely a hardcore tank type. By comparison, I would say Ember Maiden is a more well-balanced type, leaning slightly more toward tank. And Yumi the Life Sage is a more DPS-centered type. His attack, not high. His defense, very high. His speed, low. So, his main purpose is as the tank. Not very useful as a DPS type. But, look at this first skill. deals 283% attack, physical damage to the enemy with the highest attack, 60% threat chance, which immobilizes and makes an enemy unable to receive a buff for 1 turn. And then the defense up stat, 10% for 2 turns. Next, you got Flaming Majesty. That's the second skill. Grants the Overlord's protection to the 1 ally with the highest attack, other than the caster. It's very unlikely that the caster will have the highest attack, but that's neither here nor there. Oswald gains 1% damage reduction for every 5 hit points lost. Okay, that's not bad. And Overlord's protection allows the protector to take 70% of the incoming damage for those he's protecting. Your standard buff, Molten Ascension, stores incoming damage, and not overtime damage though, and releases it when casting the ultimate as extra damage. 100% of stored damage will be unleashed, but it's capped at 10% of Oswald's attack. That is kind of a game changer right there. That is really strong, especially when you cast the Flaming Majesty to grant protection to other party members. Then you can build up and unleash crazy amounts of damage while also eating crazy amounts of damage. And having a lot of defense helps you not have to worry about that, losing your life too easily. Put him in the front, pair him with a healer in the back, and you're almost invincible. I'm giving him A tier. Abyss Queen Ximi. That is more of a well-balanced type. And she's an Enlightenment and Damage Split type. Her skills, she doesn't have that much speed, which is surprising. Let's see what we got for skills. Form a symbiosis between the caster, the ally with the lowest hit points, and the ally with the highest attack, restoring hit points equal to 156% and granting vitality to all linked units. So symbiosis means takes incoming damage for allies for 2 turns. Only affects direct attacks, not overtime attacks. And then vitality, 10% damage reduction, 20% healing. And healing up is 20% healing for 2 turns. So already you got multiple healing skills right there. That's pretty good. Over here, casting the ultimate will grant Demon's Dragon Hex to the 2 allies with the highest attack. That will increase their attack by 20 and their crit chance by 10%. That's pretty strong. We're going to skip the usual buff because that's the same with everybody. And then we got Dragon Soul Whispers. Upon death, Ximi heals all allies by 158% attack while granting Demon's Dragon Hex. Activates up to 1 time per battle. Increases as you gain levels. Oh, man. That's pretty strong. Ximi is pretty strong here. I got to give her an A+, S- because that's the only thing that's missing is a revive skill. Otherwise, she's a pretty good healer. And that symbiosis allows for some lightweight tanking. She's not strictly a tank, but if you give her some super rare equipment or level her up to an overpowered level, then she can double as both a tank and a healer. Alright, moving on. Misty. Let's see. Misty is, I would say, a little more well-rounded here, but she's got higher attack and less health than Ximi, and the defense is about equal, and the speed is slightly higher. So, well-rounded, leaning slightly DPS. Let's see what those skills are. She's an Enlightenment Healing Clone type. Restores health equal to 242% of Misty's attack to the ally with the lowest health, and applies a Flower Shield equal to 20% of Misty's max health, lasting 2 turns. And cannot be dispelled. Next, you got Alluring Mist. At the end of each turn, restores hit points equal to 68% of Misty's attack to 3 allies with the lowest hit points. So that's at the end of each turn. Alright, sorry about that. Had the issue. Had to go change the diaper. But, alright, let's start over with Misty. Restores hit points equal to 242% to the ally with the lowest hit point. Flower Shield to the hero with the highest attack. That's pretty strong. At the end of each turn, restores hit point equal to 68% of Misty's attack to the 3 allies with the lowest hit points. At the start of the battle, summon a Lost Flower Spirit, which takes position in the back row and is unique. It inherits 80% of her stats, comes with Flower Wreath, only performs normal attacks. Normal attacks restore 50% hit points of Misty's attack to the 1 ally with the lowest hit points. When Misty dies, it disappears. Alright, self-cloning is a pretty strong one there. That's pretty good. And 242% to the ally with the lowest hit points. That's also quite nice. Now that obviously most of the time rules out healing any sort of tanks unless your tanks are getting close to death. But no, actually, if your tank is taking a lot of damage by being in the front, then this can help your tank to last a lot longer, especially with the shield. That's pretty strong. I'm giving that an A+. Misty, Lost Flower, A+. Alright, Kurikara, Darkflame, Mana, Bursting, Overpower, and this one is closer to being a DPS-leaning type of character. Not a whole lot of tankishness here. Number 1 skill, we got Pinnacle Blaze. 476% attack magic damage split by all enemies. The damage taken by each enemy is capped at 4 times Kurikara's attack. 30% chance to inflict crit down. So, this attack is kind of the best of both worlds here. You either inflict damage split, AoE damage split upon all enemies, or 400% damage to 1 enemy, or something in between that. That's quite strong. Circulating Wisdom Spark gains Wisdom Spark when each round starts, which grants a random buff before the turn starts. Wisdom Spark cannot be removed. And Wisdom Spark gains a random buff from this list. Form Aggregate, Feeling Aggregate, Perception Aggregate, Fabrications, Knowledge, or Immovable. So all of them except Immovable increase a stat by 5%. Immovable heals hit points equal to 25% of the caster's attack every turn for 2 turns up to 5 stacks. Pretty strong. Luminous Oath. At the end of each turn, copies a random buff gained from Wisdom Spark to 1 ally with the highest attack. Not bad. I'm giving that one a B+, A-. Not, well, no, I'm going to go A-. Excuse me. Going to go A- on that one because of the first skill. Because that can be both a DPS and an AoE strength right there. So that's what we're going with. A-. Alright. We got the Dark Oracle, Jimbo. This looks like a fancy version of that Einstein-looking dude in the splash image. He's a mana AoE debuff type. And he is just like Kurikara. Definitely a DPS leaning type. You look at that speed stat, though. He's slow. Slower than molasses in January slow. Quantum Black Hole. Deals magic damage equal to 100% of attack to all enemies. Additional true damage equal to 10% of attack for each stack of status effects on the enemy units. This can trigger up to 1 time per turn. Status effects include burn, sacred flame, poison, bleeding, and fierce poison. So he kicks enemies when they're down, basically. Spin Particle Cannon. Normal attack now deals magic damage equal to 40% of attack to all enemies. Wow. If an enemy has 1 type of status effect, there's a 15% chance to add a stack. Extreme Serum makes Jimbo immune to the status effects and increases the damage dealt by all allied unit status effects, like poison and things like that, with the damage increase equal to 5% of Jimbo's attack. I am severely unimpressed by any of that. I am very unimpressed by any of that. I'm going B- here for Jimbo. basically put him in your party if he's the only mythic you got. But as soon as it comes time to start picking between mythics, drop kick Jimbo through the uprights. He sucks. All right, now we got another tank. Lance Lord at Delacour. Guard, revive, counterattack. A little bit of speed, not that bad. Executioner's Dragonlance. Physical damage equal to 213% with the row that has the highest attack. I actually like that one quite a bit because if you got a sky-high attacker that's like hogging a row to themselves, they can do a DPS attack to them. Or it can be AoE. Shadowy Grievance. At the start of the battle, Delacour grants blessing to all allied units except himself. When a unit with a blessing or Delacour himself is attacked, 25% counterattack chance. All right. That's not that bad. A little extra damage to a single dude. No guard skills here so far, but we'll see. At start of battle, reduces all enemies' units' attacks by 10%, which cannot be dispelled. Lasting for 2 turns. When Delacour dies, he immediately revives and recovers 15% of his max hit points. When revived, his accumulated stance of Dragonlance are not cleared. That increases his attack by 2%. Cannot be dispelled, can stack up to 40 layers. Alright, so he's a tank type with a pretty good attack skills for a tank type, but those attack skills come at the expense of protection skills and buff skills. I'm going to give him a B, leaning B plus tier, but not the best tank type you could do, but not a bad one either. I don't hate him as much as I hate Jimbo. Let's put it that way. Violet the Lunar Sprite. All right, so she's got some ghosts around her that look like little cartoonized versions of the boos from the Mario games. Okay. And she herself kind of looks like a character from Spirited Away. Anyways, so she is a more well-rounded type. Not DPS strictly, not tank strictly, but with high enough power and good enough equipment, could kind of function as both. Skill 1, heals all allies by 100% of Violet's attack while granting soul return to the one ally with the lowest health for 3 turns. And soul return revives in place with hit points equal to 400% of Violet's attack if fallen during the next 3 turns. Damn. Okay. Alright, you had my curiosity, now you have my attention. 5 treasure chi boost. Normal attacks now heal the ally with the lowest hit point by 45% of Violet's attack. With a 20% chance to grant 1 stack of 5 elements for 4 turns. Also 75% chance to remove a debuff. 5 elements increases damage and damage reduction for 4 turns up to 8 stacks. Pretty good. The normal buff, of course. 7 souls return charm. Upon death, Violet heals all allies by 200% attack while granting soul return. Activates, granting all of them soul return? Seriously? Activates 1 time per battle. Okay, forget it. There's no deliberation here. S tier, S tier, S tier. All the freaking way. That is an excellent healer type. And to top it all off, her speed's alright, her defense is alright. But the soul return stat, that changes the game. Healing, the opportunity to heal everybody, or healing with 400% of Violet's attack, that is like a full health heal, or close to a full health heal, or maybe a half health heal for a fully leveled up tank. Alright, Violet, if you have her, she is in your party, period. S tier, S tier, S tier. Alright, next. Riptide Blade Wesley, as you wish. Sorry, Princess Bride joke, because Wesley spelled the same way. Looks like he's leaning DPS, but not quite fully there. A little bit higher defense and lower attack than most DPS points. High speed is good. Destroyer, Burst, Execute. So, deals 298% of attack damage to the rear row enemy with the lowest hit point. If the target drops below 20 after taking it, deals extra damage equal to 5 times the attack. So that's basically an instant kill. That's a legit DPS skill right there. No extra buffs or debuffs. High frequency light blade. Whenever a hero falls on the background, not counting pets, Wesley heals by 6% max hit point while gaining a stack of 1 rapid river. Only 1 death per hero counts within 1 round. Rapid river grants Wesley 10% damage bonus. Alright, so more damage when your fellow heroes die. Morbid, but it works, I guess. Next, atomic okay, sorry, I misread that at first. Thought it said atomic shafter. God, that sounds NSFW. Atomic shatter. 25% chance to inflict revival denied on attack. Revival denied means cannot be revived for 4 turns. So, not only does this fool instant kill, but he denies revival. That's pretty cold. That's like Kendrick against Drake levels of cold. I'm going A. Solid A. That's pretty strong. You got some good reasons to put this dude in your party. Next up, Ingrid, the Shadow Queen. Similar to this past dude, she is DPS leaning central, kind of in between the two, well-rounded with high speed. Blood Moon Courtyard is the first skill, which attacks 3 enemy units with the lowest health, dealing physical damage equal to 180 of attack. 40% chance to inflict reduced healing and reduction decrease, which those ones are pretty much self-explanatory. Less 50% healing down is pretty legit, but it doesn't stack. Crimson Chalice. When allied unit attacks during her turn, 50% chance to launch a support attack against that same target that your other unit picks. So unit that triggers support will use a basic attack to launch the support attack. It's considered a normal attack, so its stats will be the same as a normal attack. Still, though, stacking attacks on top of each other, that's not so bad. Queen's Resolve. At the start of the battle, Ingrid applies synergy to all allied units. When a unit with synergy launches a support attack, it grants the full team 1 layer of Resolve, which stacks up to 10 layers. Synergy grants Resolve to all allies. Resolve, support damage increased by 5%. Support, we went over that. God, that's kind of a hard one to rank here. I'm not saying the skills are bad, but the physical damage on that skill is kind of low. The support attack's kind of nice, but none of those are blowing my skirt up. I'm going B for Ingrid, the Shadow Queen. Next up, we got Teresa, the Scarlet Muse. Fire type, obviously. More well-rounded with higher hit points, though. And speed is moderate. First attack is Delusional Barrier. Equals 164% of attack to the mid and the back row enemies. 40% chance to inflict 1 type of status effect on a random enemy, which include Burn, Sacred Flame, Poison, Bleed, and Fierce Poison. And then adds Delusional Barriers later on, unable to receive healing for 2 turns. All incoming healing will be transferred to the caster. Heal Steal is a pretty killer skill. Alright. What do we got next? Mana Surge. Normal attack now targets 1 random enemy, dealing magic damage equal to 100% of attack. Finally, one that deals 100% of attack. And a 30% chance to inflict 1 type of status effect. Alright. Crimson Progenitor. Increases damage of all status effects by 5% of Teresa's attack. After she uses ultimate skill, 30% chance to inflict. Alright, got a phone call to interrupt there, but let's continue with this one. Damage of all status effects by 5%. Crimson Prison, unable to remove a debuff for 2 turns. Alright, kicking an enemy when they're down. I like it. Damage is not so bad. I'm giving a B+. Not amazing, but not terrible. Pretty damn good. All right, Katrina, Black Pearl, is a tank type. And so, but the health is kind of low for a tank type. Guard, shield, and damage reduction. High defense. Slow, though. Skill-wise, we got Roaring Cannons. Deals 100% physical damage to all enemies while granting hit point shield to the 2 allies with the lowest hit points for 2 turns. That absorbs up to 10% damage. And she can decrease defense for enemies later on. Sea God's Blessing. 4% damage reduction for 1 turn when taking damage. And Lucky Compass grants ally heroes 10% damage reduction, 10% normal attack modifier for each additional 1 order hero deployed. The normal attack modifier is increased by 2%, can't be removed. None of that sounds all that impressive to me, and her max skills over here are not that good. I'm going B-. And I'm kicking Jimbo down to a C+, because screw Jimbo. Aura Knight. Aura Knight is a little more on the DPS side. But her stats are a little bit weak too, but she's fast. Deals 298% physical damage to the target with extra true damage equal to 2% of the target's max hit points. That's a killer boss beater. Luminous Sanctuary. Allied unit attacks during a turn. Eyre has a 30% chance to launch a support attack. Damage dealt increases to 110%. 30% chance to launch a support attack, which attacks somebody that somebody else is already attacking. That's pretty legit. Luminous Priestess. When dropping below 30%, heals by 20% and transforms into Luminous Priestess till the end of the battle. That means 30% attack and 30% speed. That's pretty good. I'm going B to B+ right there. Because transforming like that, that's legit. Maggie, the Etch Witch, is a more DPS-oriented type, primarily. Defense is pretty low, though, and health is pretty low. Deals magic damage equal to 95% attack to all enemies and has a 30% chance to inflict 1 layer of poison on the target. To all enemies, though, that's pretty good. And the chance to poison multiples, that's actually not bad. How long does poison last? For 2 turns. 20% of casters attack for 2 turns. At the start of the turn, Whispered Curse deals magic damage equal to 120 to all enemies. 20% chance to apply restriction, which immobilizes them for 1 turn. Not bad. Soul Shackle. At the start of the battle, if Maggie is in the front or middle row, she grants a 5% damage bonus to all allies. If Maggie's in the back row, she grants a 5% damage reduction to all allies that last for 2 turns. Alright, that is not bad. I'm kind of put off by the low defense and the low health. But if you hide her in the back row, then she can inflict poison and immobilization to all enemies. I can't really argue with that. I'm going to give her a B. B tier. Next, we got Hamish, the Oathkeeper. Not to be confused with the Oathkeepers that storm the capital. This is something different in this game. He is a little more on the DPS leaning, well-rounded side, but his stats are still a little lower than I like. 298% of physical damage to a random enemy in the rear row with a 30% chance to inflict stun. Gains 3 stacks of Steel Resolve when dropping below 60 hit points. Activates 1 time per battle. Steel Resolve grants 10% damage reduction. So you're looking at 30% damage reduction. Okay. Each stack increases final damage by 15%. That's decent damage right there. At the start of the battle, Hamish applies Bloodthirst to all allies. Each time Hamish uses a normal attack or ultimate skill, 60% chance to gain 1 stack of Steel Steel Resolve. Sorry, it looked like Steel Reserve at first. God, I was going to say, that's a pretty West Coast dude right there. B. Not impressed. Next, you got Beau, the Crimson Wolf. He's definitely a tank type with high defense, low speed, low-ish attack power. Deals physical damage equal to 298% to a single enemy unit with a 50% chance to apply a stack of Vengeance, enhancing his own damage and reduction in defense. Vengeance damage reduction decreases by 3% on the enemy. Cannot be dispelled and can stack up to 15 stacks. Feral counterattack at the start of the battle. Beau applies Comrade to allied unit with the highest attack besides himself. When the unit with Comrade or Beau is attacked, 30% counterattack chance and 30% chance of Vengeance on the target. Counterattack. When attacked, the unit will obviously counterattack once. That doesn't last a specific amount of turns. It just lasts for one counterattack. And the passive here, 50% chance to remove all debuffs from the caster at the start of each turn. That functionally makes debuffs almost useless. B+. That's pretty good. Alright, Fire Princess Suri is next. Not to be confused with Suri Cruise. This one's more of a DPS type with good speed. And type is Destroyer Burn Burst. Interesting. Attacks the frontal enemy 5 times, dealing 298% physical damage each time. Each hit has a 30% chance to inflict burn. So, holy moly. So, essentially, that makes the enemy's tank completely useless. Empowering Gust. If the target carries any continuous damage, gains Majestic Wind stacks, according to the number of continuous damage, etc. Majestic Wind, plus 5 crit chance, plus 10 crit damage. Up to 1 turn. Meh. Crimson Curse increases burn and sacred flame damage dealt by all allies by 5% of Suri's attack. So that's excellent if you have... that's excellent if you have other fire types in there especially. But what I'm really looking at here is Defeated Dogs Disperse, which it essentially renders the enemy tank completely useless. Which allows you to just rain damage down on the DPS types and the healers. That's killer, A-. Moon Princess, Elan, not Elon Musk. Elan, the wolf girl, I guess. More of a tank type. Well-balanced, leaning tank. The first skill would be healing the 3 allies with the lowest hit points by 140% of Elan's attack, while granting 20% higher crit damage. Pretty good. The ultimate heals 10% extra damage and grants all allies 10% less continuous damage taken as long as Elan is on the battleground. When enemies take continuous damage, 30% of the total damage is converted into healing and then split between everybody. So that is a very unique skill that kind of makes poison attacks useless. That's kind of legit. So that, plus the fact that she's a healer altogether, overall, I'm going to go B+. Not the best healer, but any healer is valuable most of the time. Next, we got Sakura Fox Tamamo, which is definitely more of a DPS type. Very strong damage, not that high of a speed or defense. Deals 100% attack magic damage to all enemies with a 40% chance to inflict, 40% chance to burn for 2 turns. That's excellent. Murderous Intent. Each normal attack has a 30% chance to inflict burn for 2 turns, and normal attacks will prioritize targets carrying burn. And then the final attack on her activates Ninetales state, not like the Pokemon, while taking a fatal blow. Ninetales will absorb 3 fatal blows before the caster is killed, and it survives the turn, heals her by 35%, max hit point, and ends the transformation. 1 activation per battle. That's pretty strong. I'm going an A-. All right. Next. All right, next up we got Lumina Starlite. Yeah. She's a little more of a well-rounded type. Not quite DPS, not quite tank, but primarily a healer. We got first attack is Lunar Renewal. Heals all allies by 100% of her attack with 60% chance to grant plus 10% attack to everybody except herself. 60% chance, that's not bad. That's pretty good, especially good for your DPS types. Arcane Infusion, normal attacks now deal 100% magic damage to 3 random enemies. 100% magic damage to 3 random enemies. I mean, that's not bad. Bamboo Light, 40% a chance to inflict Bamboo Light Mark, which means Lumina gains 3% attack for each stack of Bamboo Light Mark the enemy carries up to 10 stacks. So, a healer that can do some damage to enemies, that's decent. Nothing's really impressing me that much. I'm going B+. B. Okay. Alright. Next up, we got Ayano, the Sword Sage, who is a DPS type primarily, but hit points are a little higher than most DPS points. You got Immovable Lightning, deals 28%, 283% rather, attack physical damage to the enemy with the lowest hit point percentage. If the target drops below 50% after taking the hit, 60% chance to trigger Command Thunder, which launches a 100% attack one more time. So, pretty good for a kill shot, but also pretty good for really severely weakening the tank if they're using a formation with one character in front and it's a tank. That's valuable. Imperial Soul of Voodoo. When an allied unit attacks, Ayano has a 40% chance to launch a support attack. Thunder Sword Control. Each attack grants a caster 1 stack of lightning aura, as well as a 40% chance to inflict 1 stack of bleed. And then bleed takes damage equal to 20% of the caster's attack as hit points every turn for 2 up to 5 stacks. Takes 20% damage equal to... Oh my god. Takes damage equal to 20% caster's attack as hit points revival. Alright, so Ayano has lifesteal. That's pretty legit. That's a pretty big game changer. A lifesteal and an attack that can double as both a tank killer and just an attack to execute enemies that are close. So I'm going A. That's pretty good. Shadow Rogue Liliana. We got Mana Sleeping Clone. She is primarily mixed type, or well-rounded rather, but very good defense for her type. Crushing Clouds, magic damage equal to 100% to all enemies, 60% chance to inflict sleep and poison on 2 random targets. So, as an AoE attack, it's not all that good as far as the chances, but that's still pretty good. Sleep and poison at the same time. While Liliana's alive, if an enemy is awakened from a dreamland by an attack, they suffer magic damage equal to 30% of her attack. Dreamland. I guess that just means sleep. Shadow Symbiosis. At the start of the battle, Liliana summons a Shadow Servant that appears in an empty spot on our side of the field. The Shadow Servant takes position in the front row by default. It inherits 60% of total stats and only performs normal attacks. If enemy units deal damage to the Shadow Servant, they have a 15% chance to be hit with sleep and poison. That can only be triggered 1 time per battle. Alright, I'm giving her an A- because that Shadow Servant one is pretty legit. Because, yes, if it takes position in the front, it's going to get wasted pretty quickly. But anybody that attacks it has a chance of getting put to sleep and poisoned. That's not too bad. And enemy is weakened from Dreamland, magic damage. I'm giving a B+, A-. That one's not too bad. And then the last one we got is Immaculate Moon Ren. She is definitely more of a tank type with high defense and medium speed. Guard, penetration, and counterattack. Soaring Dragon deals 298 attack physical damage to one random rear row enemy while inflicting one stack of Dragon Whisper. Dragon Whisper receive all stacks will be detonated, dealing damage equal to 4% of the caster's max health, while healing Ren by 3%. That's not too bad, especially for stacking them up. Circle of Life applies evasive armor to guard class allied units lasting for 2 turns, which increases defense by 3%, damage reduction by 3%. So she can, if you got another more hardcore tank in the game, she can really make them even tankier. Not bad. Draconic Roar. At the start of the battle, Ren applies Big Dipper to allied units in the front row. When units with Big Dipper or Ren are attacked, Ren has a 20% chance to counterattack and a 30% chance to inflict a stack of Dragon's Whisper on the target. Not too bad. Those are pretty good. I like the counterattack chances, and I like the making tanks even tankier. That's a pretty good one to put in your party. I'm going A-. Alright, that completes the tier list of all of the Mythic heroes. So, this is Game Hydro. Please like and subscribe. Stay tuned for our Legendary Hero tier list.